tons.
Well, I kind of told you what was going to happen.
So was the post-game press conference and interviews as well. But let's get into it, gentlemen, shall we? So, about last night, Odell Beckham Jr., he stole the show for all the wrong reasons in the Giants' 24-10 loss to the Vikings as he finished with a career-low 23 receiving yards and earning a taunting penalty. Here's Odell Beckham on the game.
Oh, there's never any explanation. It's just my fault. That's all I look at it as. It's my fault. There's whatever you want to call it. I just have to understand. If I sneeze the wrong way, it'll be a flag. It'll be a fine. If I tie my shoe the wrong way, it might be a fine or a flag. It is what it is. You have to understand that. As tough as it is to understand that for a 23-year-old who has been blessed with a lot, God has gifted me with an amazing amount of ability, amazing amount of everything, and just it seems like it's all working against you, but what are you going to do? Are you going to back down or are you going to stand up? And I've never been one to back down. So I'm going to stand up. We're going to work to get better.
He's got to be aware. You know, people are looking for him, and he's got to play smart, and he just can't afford to do anything. You know, they're going to call him. He's kind of brought that upon himself, so he's got to realize that.
Eli with some strong words for Beckham. Max, should OBJ have been tossed?
Yes, he should have been. And I say that as a Giants fan. He should have been tossed. But before I even get to that, I want to address Odell Beckham directly. What is it? I want to address him directly. Odell, are you kidding me? You should have been thrown out on the Odell Beckham rule. I mean, I get it. You're frustrated because you're getting roughed up. The refs miss a call when you go out of bounds. But then your temper tantrum costs the team 15 yards. And on the very next play, you seek contact out of bounds when you know they warn you because of essentially the Odell Beckham rule. The next one and you're gone. You seek contact on the next play. You're playing the Vikings. Didn't play them last year because you missed that game because of what went down with Josh Norman. So they come up with this rule, and you're going to be the guy they had apply it to after they apply it to your teammate the week before in a loss. You have got to be kidding me. Now, guys, I understand that, look, a boxer, for example, gets hit low. The ref's not calling anything. You know what you do if you're a fighter, if you're a prize fighter? You hit the other guy low because you got to take matters into your own hands. But if Odell is thinking that, if he's thinking that's what he had to do there, that's the opposite. Because it's not like if a guy's hitting you low and the ref warns you, you hit the guy low. Once the ref warns you, everyone's watching you. Odell is very lucky to not be ejected. Why should he been ejected? Well, obviously, because there was a rules infraction. It was intentional. He was trying to be slick. He wasn't that slick. But from a Giants fan point of view, I'm helping to raise 3 children. Got 3 daughters. And let me tell you what you do, as my wife has explained to me since she actually read the books, when they misbehave. There have to be immediate consequences, and it has to be correlated to their behavior. It has to be a result of their behavior. If they procrastinate getting in the bath, that means they don't get that thing that they wanted because there's no time. There's a consequence. From a Giants fan point of view, I know you're a Giants fan too, Molly, and so are you after your Steelers allegiance.
It's just the New York teams, but I'm diehard Steelers all day, every day.
Okay.
Yes.
But I think we all know what we're talking about here. As a Giants fan, Odell still, from his comments after the game, still doesn't get the message as though he's being persecuted.
It's victim mentality.
He needed to be tossed immediately so he, on an emotional level, felt those immediate consequences. Not the next game, not next week, not next month or year, no rules change. You did that after a warning. You are out of here. That would have hopefully driven home the lesson better than anything has so far, because he is being self-destructive, Stephen A. And I get it. His quarterback's not seeing when he's open. He's missing him when he's open and all that stuff. But these corners who are roughing him up are getting into his head. And the proof in the pudding is he's not making plays he always makes. The reason I think Odell is better than everyone else is because he doesn't have to be open to be open. He makes impossible catches routine. but he wasn't making those plays yesterday. Those impossible catches, he was just another receiver who couldn't quite make it. Good effort, but not quite. That's not Odell Beckham Jr. It's actually affecting his play. Never mind the penalties. Never mind the distraction and the contagion on the team.
There you go with that word contagion again.
This is bad.
Let me say this to you. I respectfully disagree. And the reason why I utter the word and I prefaced it by saying respectfully is because I understand where everybody's coming from. And looking at it in a vacuum, I wouldn't necessarily disagree, because I'm all about law and order. I'm all about, yo, you got to sit up there and toe the line and make sure you got discipline, et cetera, et cetera. But there are many occasions where we see referees exercise, their arbitrary ways, and they decide when and when not to inflict punishment upon a player based on a player's actions, et cetera, et cetera. I think you and everybody who thinks like you is missing the boat here when it comes to Odell Beckham Jr. He is not the problem with the New York Giants. They've got a bevy of other issues. And I think that when I heard Eli Manning, who is class personified, who's always conducted himself like class, who's completing 66% of his passes, but has thrown just 4 touchdowns with 4 interceptions this year, I think that speaks to the level of frustration. I think that a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. is about winning. I was driving in. I listened to my man Ryan Clark on Mike and Mike this morning, just talk about Odell Beckham Jr. from last year when he was going up against Josh Norman and the Carolina Panthers, and so much was made about him when you could hear him on the sideline screaming, "We're losing," and nobody cares. So the priority was about winning. The priority was about being successful. The priority is about not getting punked, which I think on a few occasions the New York Giants over the last couple of years have done. Now we go to Ben McAdoo. We go to an Eli Manning. We go to this guy Hart that was in his ear walking into the tunnel at halftime, basically getting on Odell Beckham Jr. to pretty much get himself under control. And I'm of the mindset that we've got a whole bunch of people talking about the importance of bringing things together. I want everybody here. You, Will Kane's going to be on in a little while. Coach Herm Edwards is going to come on in a little while. I want everybody to remember what my mentality is. I have always been a staunch adversary against coaches and other players leaning on the actions, even if it's the transgression of a particular player, and saying somehow, some way that has dictated our performance, that has dictated our behavior. When it does that, no excuse, no mercy, bring the hammer down. But when that is not the case, I think it's easy for everybody to gloss over his selfish and immature act and say that is the cause for our troubles. It's not the cause. It's a result. How he's acting basically is provoked by the kind of things that they're not doing. Guys need to do their jobs. Sure, you don't need Odell Beckham Jr. causing the quarterback trouble. Sure, you don't need him getting penalized and accruing penalties. We get all of that. That's obvious. But the flip side to it is that you have a guy who is a stud and a superstar, somebody you believe, Max, to be the best receiver in all of football. Xavier Rhodes comes out there, holds this dude to 3 receptions for 23 yards, puts him on lock and key, career low. Sure, it's getting to him. But you know what else probably was getting to him? How he was open, wasn't getting the football, how there was missed opportunities. Now, these are the kind of things that happen every single week.
That's a straw man, I think, because I don't think anyone's saying that the Giants are bad right now, or they lost a couple games. We knew they were going to lose to Minnesota. Right. They probably weren't going to go 3-0. 2-2 is more or less where we expect them at this point. Sure. I don't think they're in that bad shape, to tell you the truth. Sure. But no one's saying that I know, look, Odell is the problem on the Giants. The issue is he needs to be a huge part of the solution because he's their best player. He's not the quarterback, but he's the best player on the team.
Far be it for me for, just tickling my memory just a touch, Max, but I recall you when Odell Beckham Jr. was on the field against Washington, and you were going off about how Eli Manning needed to get him the ball because he was in their face, and he was like, I'm open. All I'm saying to you is...
This is different. No one was open yesterday. The Minnesota defense was excellent.
Well, no.
Receivers were not open.
Time out. You might say that based on the television camera angles. I may say the same thing. Odell Beckham Jr. clearly begs to differ. And if he begs to differ, I'm saying if you're Eli Manning or anybody else, you've got to look at it from the perspective. You got to get this stud to football. One of the things, you go to boxing, I'll lean on basketball in this equation. It's just like the big boy that's down low. Now, it's an unwritten understanding in the sport of basketball. If the big boy doesn't get fed, He's going to be hungry. He's going to have attitude.
Not gonna play
and
defense.
he's not going to be what you need him to be. So what you do is, even if it's at the beginning of the game, you go down court, you feed the beast. Why?
The problem
because you
is,
need him active.
The problem
you need that.
If you really want to get in the X's and O's, the Giants are missing Shane Vereen and Rashad Jennings. Right. And Perkins was good running the ball, but not so good in terms of protection. And as a result, because of that Minnesota defense, they gave Eli Manning almost no time to throw the ball, even when they didn't bring extra guys. So no one was open.
That absolves Eli. But hold it. It absolves Eli, but it doesn't absolve the coaching. It doesn't absolve the decision-making. It doesn't absolve some of the things that an Odell Beckham Jr. may believe they should be doing. Again, I'm not defending immature, all right, and selfish acts. What I am saying is that sometimes when you've got a stud and he's out there on that field and he is doing his job. Right. The problem is everybody wants to gloss over it and act like, okay, this is the storyline. We got to make sure we get this guy under control when there are ways to do it and they haven't done it.
No. If you're arguing that the argument is not Odell doesn't have a right to be frustrated. He has every right to be frustrated. You're absolutely right. The Giants don't do a good enough job of getting him the ball. And if he is commanding that much attention, they need to do a better job of scoring because that means other guys are open. The field should be loose somewhere else if there's always safety help and the best corner on Odell. That part is true. It's also true that Odell's right when he says he's not getting calls and guys are allowed to get away with things on him. That's also true, but that's not the issue. How you respond to it is the issue. And if you self-destruct, that is clearly the wrong response.
Well, that's if you self-destruct.
And he's self-destructing.
Wait a minute, but sometimes, why? Because he got a penalty? Because he got a penalty?
Because on the next play, he hit a guy out of
Do you think he's a little mentally weak?
I think no. I don't believe.
Do you think he's a little sensitive?
I think he's sensitive.
Okay.
I think there's a difference between being sensitive and mentally weak. To me, you're mentally weak if it cripples you and it inhibits your ability to go out there and do what you're capable of doing. I have seen Odell Beckham Jr. frustrated, visibly so, and go out there and play like a stud. It's 4 games in. Max Kellerman, it's 4 games in.
Oh, he's going to be big this year, of course.
Hold on. It's 4 games in. How in God's name are you the New York Giants and you okay with this brother not having a touchdown?
Well, let me ask you this.
How do you've got to figure that out. You've got to figure that out.
And it is a coaching issue, to your point, as well.
He has 25 touchdowns since he's going to catch plenty of touchdowns.
I'm talking about how he's feeling now, Max.
Right. Okay, but that's fine. You can feel that way. How does the behavior come out? Do you channel it properly or do you behave immaturely? He behaved immaturely. There's no 2 ways about it.
I don't believe that. There's no doubt that he's been immature. But I think sometimes that immaturity can be a spark plug for the people around you because they don't want to deal with it and they're going to do what they're supposed to do. And that's what you're missing here.
Did it affect his play? I believe it absolutely did. Okay. You could see him not make plays. Right. Would they have been sensational plays? Yes, he always makes them. Right. He wasn't making them when the ball was coming his way after the incident.
I'm not defending immaturity and selfishness. What I'm saying is sometimes it takes you being rebellious and acting out for other people to sit up there and say, damn, I don't want to deal with this guy. Let me take care of him so we can move forward. Sometimes that's necessary.
I appreciate your optimism.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah.